Hello, I am Mike Hendrix from SMB Golf, and today my guest is Jake Gordon, co-founder and CEO of Noteefy, and this is the Tech Caddie podcast. Jake, welcome to the show.
Mike, thanks for having me.
I'm glad to have you on. We're into year 2, and we had your co-founder on early on, Dathan Wong, who's done I think a tremendous job for you guys, but I'll let you brag about him. But we've never had you on the show. And so I have watched you guys grow this company from afar, and it's impressive what you guys do. Why don't you introduce people to Noteefy, give us maybe your elevator pitch, and then let's get into your story and talk about the future.
Absolutely. Well, Mike, thanks for having me. I'm going to call myself a first-time caller, long-time listener. Appreciate what you're doing, really bringing to light a lot of what's going on in the golf technology ecosystem. I tend to find myself going to your site and listening to your podcast to hear the latest and greatest. So really appreciate you having me. For folks who aren't familiar, Noteefy is what we consider to be demand technology for golf courses. What that means at a high level is we make it easier for golfers to book directly on a tee sheet, especially when last-minute cancellations or no-shows occur. And we make it easier for operators to ensure that their perished inventory gets rebooked at peak rates. We have a suite of capabilities. Kind of our first album, if you'll call it, our first product was, really the digital booking assistant. The way it works is our product integrates into the course's existing website and existing tee sheet and provides automated notification capabilities for golfers looking to play at that facility or at affiliated facilities. For example, if you're, looking to book in Northern California at San Jose Muni, we might recommend you also play at Ansel Hoffman or another facility nearby, because with Noteefy, that's a CourseGo property, and so we have multi-course recommendations. So the digital booking assistant makes it easier for the golfers to play when inventory opens and ensures that operators are capturing as much of the hard-earned revenue that they deserve. We also are rolling out a number of other capabilities that help operators capture incremental revenue, whether that's a new capability called Confirm, which we're just now rolling out, that focuses more so on no-shows and short shows, or even a new product called Q, which is more like a digital call center for destination resorts. So I know that was long-winded, but essentially—
It was a long elevator ride.
It was, yeah. We're in Manhattan going to the very top.
Right.
But really the reason we exist is to help operators drive more revenue and a better golfer experience.
Yeah, it sounds to me, Jake, like you guys help golf courses make more money through different demand levers that actually the golfer can create, but you leverage on behalf of the operator, right? I mean, you're not a marketplace. You're not like saying we're selling tee times at 20% off or anything like that, but you leverage this demand that is out there today among the millions and millions of golfers. And you've found a way to make that be a greater advantage for your customers versus people that are not your customers, golf courses that aren't your customers. And you've done it through a couple of familiar features, if you will, or familiar ways that people use: wait list, reminders, this call center thing that I'm anxious to learn about.
Sure.
And that's really the proposition, I think, for thousands of golf courses out there.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I think early on, I'm newer to the golf business and a newer player, only picked up the game within the last 5+ years. But as a golfer, one thing I noticed, and I'm here in Southern California, in LA, so viscerally understand the pain of trying to find inventory, especially at some of these busy courses. I think the number one thing I realized is, as a golfer, there's so much friction in the discovery process, especially when you have scarce kind of parameters. Like, I can only play between 7 and 10 a.m. on Saturday this weekend. That creates a lot of friction for me as a golfer. Then at the same time, I think the big aha or oh my God moment was I saw a stat actually from Lightspeed that about 20% of all inventory did result in a cancellation or in some cases a no-show. So there seemed to be these two kind of big trends where on one hand, so much pent-up demand, so much excess demand on the consumer side to play at great courses. And that resulted in a ton of friction trying to find your way onto the course. But at the same time, there was a leaky bucket, if you will, because of last minute cancellations, because of no-shows, a meaningful portion, maybe up to 20% of all the revenue was, effectively leaking out the bottom of the bucket and not going to the operator.
Right. Let me ask you, because I know you pay attention to the restaurant space.
Yep.
And that's actually my original, and the first thing I did as an adult was I started buying Subway sandwich shops, right? So I kind of ran in that circle a little bit for a while. The problem of no-shows in golf, is it greater than the problem in restaurants? And let me just, I ask that because I wonder if as an industry, golf courses have allowed no-shows to be easier to commit, if you will, as the golfer, right? Like, is it easy to be a no-show and it doesn't hurt? And so that's why we found ourselves in this place. But maybe we compare it to restaurants. Maybe it's the same as restaurants. I actually don't know.
Yeah, we saw some data from OpenTable that said up to 30% of restaurant seats result in a no-show, which is pretty staggering. That's obviously.
So this isn't like a bed that the golf course operator made for him or herself. This is frankly, consumers just aren't very respectful of reservations is the problem here.
That's right, especially when there's no disincentive to short show, no show, cancel. So if you'll say like, kind of what's the solution, right? I think it's a combination of policy and technology. On the policy side, this is kind of my quote unquote like hill to die on, is every operator, in our opinion, should be enforcing their cancellation or no-show policy, right? The obvious reason is that that's perishable inventory. And maybe Jake had a foursome drop to a twosome. There was two other guys or gals who would have loved to have played that time. And I think as the NGF just pointed out in their research about the value of a tee time, that operator is not losing out just on the $50 green fee. There's actually up to 50, 60, 70% incremental spend that operator missed when it comes to the retail, the merchandise, the F&B. So for us, I think there's
let's talk about that for a second. Maybe we'll drop the graph in here because the NGF says I'm allowed to. So maybe we'll put that in here. But look, when I'm looking at 18-hole premium, based on the data that came out today in a press release that I saw, we're talking about 52%. Help me if I'm wrong here. 52% of the total revenue that came from that foursome was actually not related to green fee. And oh, by the way, in this case, we're including cart fee in green fee, right? Because I didn't see that broken out. So the data is suggesting that more than half of the spend from a foursome at a premium golf course, premium public, is not green fee related.
That's correct. And I think anecdotally, we can all relate to that as golfers. You check into the pro shop, you spend $50 for a green fee, and then you get a bucket of range balls for 10 or 12 bucks. And then on the fourth hole, you go and you get, a burger and a beer. And then maybe after your round, you had such a good time, you get a hat, right? And then maybe you sit down for lunch. You can see how all of that ancillary spend adds up for the operator and for the golfer. So that's kind of our point here about the problem of no-shows is it's not just the green fee, which is the opportunity cost. It's all of the additional spend. And then it's the lifetime value. And then it's also the fact that another loyal customer didn't have the chance to come back and patron your facility. So, for us,
because they got blocked out.
That's exactly right. And that's a frustrating experience, right? Maybe Mike's going to now take his business somewhere else. Maybe you're just not going to play if you don't find the inventory and pick up a new hobby. Maybe you're going to be the latest one to fall in love with pickleball, right? So golf, we believe, really should be pulling those golfers in and compressing the inventory. And we see it as two big levers that an operator can pull. One is on the policy side. So as I said, enforce your cancellation policy. I always look to Palm Beach County and Eric Garber, and I love the way he set it up, which is collect a credit card, $0 deposit. If you cancel inside 24 hours, it's $20 a head. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. If you no show, it's the full green fee. While it's painful, for Mike to walk up to the pro shop and say it's going to be 3 of us and our 4th buddy, his car broke down, ultimately, if you don't disincentivize that behavior, it's going to repeat itself.
Now, I got a lot of questions, and I want to come back to the Eric Garber thing because I think that's a whole nother interesting conversation.
Sure.
But if I go back to the data, the short shows are a really big deal, I think. And for the people that maybe don't know golf, we're talking 4 people booked, 2 people showed up. We call that a short show.
Yep.
Maybe today, the golf course operator, he's selling golf for $75 a round, okay? Maybe today he says that short show cost me $150. But the part of your data is suggesting, no, Kelly, it actually cost you $300. Am I right to think about it in those terms? Because, of course, those 2 people weren't there for all the ancillary spend.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the realized cost is the green fee. But then additionally, the opportunity cost on the ancillary revenue we're seeing from the market data is there, right?
Yes.
So yeah, the total cost of the problem at an individual facility on average is over $100,000 in no shows or short shows or last minute cancellations, which is staggering, right? Because that's a meaningful part of the profit margin of some facilities.
For sure. So if you're looking to grow revenue without growing, charging more for green fee, without going from 10-minute intervals to 8 sevens, if you're looking to grow revenue, this is your honeypot. Just get so much better on no shows, short shows.
Yeah, exactly. So back to the restaurant example, and maybe you can send the link out to folks who are listening. Open Table did a campaign called Turn the Tables on No Shows. The entire reason is because 30% no shows is a serious problem to the financial health of a restaurant, right? That again, if 1 or 2 tables no show, that's the entire margin for that hour or that shift. So
yes, that's a good way to look at it. Entire margin for that hour, right?
Exactly. So Open Table had a few ways that they solved this. One is they instituted or suggested restaurants have like a 4 strikes and you're out policy. So if you no show on Open Table 4 times, they might ban you from the platform or warn you that, hey, you're at risk of losing access to this product, because at the end of the day, Open Table's health is also tied to the restaurants, right?
Right.
So the first is the 4 strikes you're out. And I think course operators can, potentially take inspiration from that. That's something we've actually baked into our new capability. So operators can see we're calling it like the naughty list, like who the serial no-showers are. And then at the same time, there's an education issue sometimes for the consumer. Maybe Jake and Mike are getting together, next weekend. I booked dinner, but I completely forgot about it. Open Table over communicates with the customer saying, hey, you've got a reservation via SMS next week, then 4 days out, 3 days out, they continue to let you know. And we think operators can take some similar technology inspiration there.
That's good. Going back to the press release, again, this came out this morning, so it's good timing. There's a line in here. It says, and again, this is not your press release. This is a press release from the NGF. They actually did not mention Noteefy, but I think they were referring to you. It was my guess. Okay. But there's a line in here that says, the key shift is thinking like an experience designer instead of a golf operator. And it goes on to say, with each touch point presenting an opportunity to create value rather than just facilitate the round. My thing with that is, but I love golf operators. Like, I don't want golf operators to not be golf operators, right? There are people, Steve Graybill in the greater Philly area, sure. Allison George in Iowa, Kelly Morrow in Zanesville, Ohio, MG Orender, Rock Lucas. I mean, yeah. Golf course operators are amazing people. I think we have seen on more than one podcast or presentation, we estimate they run like 6 different businesses simultaneously. It's kind of an amazing thing to be a successful golf course operator. So I want to be super pro golf course operator, but just help them get exposed to some of these new ideas. And I'm curious to know.
Yeah.
You guys made, I'm not a dummy. I was watching you guys in 2024. The progress you made with management companies was frankly staggering. What I'm interested in is, how do you connect with Allison George? How do you connect with Kelly Morrow? How do you bring the Noteefy story to these individual operators that are just kind of out there doing it on their own?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Well, first of all, I believe we have roughly or over 600 properties we work with, and at least half of them are individual course operators who are not affiliated with a management company or an ownership group. The first course we ever launched with was Simi Hills in Simi Valley, California. An awesome $40 a round individual municipality course, no affiliation with a management company. And I think it's yes and, right? The way a management company views their operations, maybe focused heavily on optimization of the tee sheet, optimization of that customer journey to book, the website design, etc. And I think what a individual course operator is doing, or owner like you described, is taking a lot of pride in the product and the craft and the way that a golfer experiences the property. When they turn the corner, there might be little details that an individual owner takes a lot of pride in. So I don't think it's by any means mutually exclusive of, and I think it's additive. What a MCO brings and what an individual course operator brings is a different set of skills that I think 1 + 1 = 3.
Agreed. And for the record, I do think there's a bunch of management companies that do a wonderful job for their clients, and they provide excellent value, right? And I just was really impressed with the progress you made there.
Yeah.
But when I was at the PGA show and I did get a chance to speak with Dathan, he mentioned that you guys had completed a big SOC 2 certification. And for people that don't know, I'll put a link in the notes, along with your link, by the way, from the Open Table mention. I'll put a link in the notes to what SOC 2 is. But as I was flying back to the home of the national champions, Ohio State University Buckeyes, I thought to myself, that's pretty cool that Noteefy did that SOC 2 work. But he also mentioned, I think it's called VPAT. He also mentioned VPAT work that you guys are doing. And the reason I say that that's pretty cool, and I don't want to bore people, but when you do that work, it is on behalf of all of your customers. It's on behalf of the individual mom and pop golf courses, and it's on behalf of these management companies, where you're essentially making sure the tech you provide them is safe and is not going to get them, crossing any kind of line with any laws or regulations that they might not be aware of. I don't know if you want to brag about Dathan a little bit. I don't know if you want to expand on what VPAT is. I've done a bunch of research on VPAT. I think I got a 15-page report I'm ready to share. But it's been impressive what you guys have done on those fronts.
Yeah, it's been an education, and I think we had to make a decision as a business how seriously we took these things. Maybe rewind to fall 2024. We had an opportunity to work with one of the biggest resorts in the world, who was owned by a massive, I don't know about publicly traded company, but equivalent in size. And they said to us, hey, we're excited to work together, but if we're going to work together, you need to be SOC 2 compliant. And SOC 2, for those who don't know, is it's a security data certification that effectively audits your entire business, your entire technology stack, your use of data, how you handle, personal information, how your passwords are, etc. And if you get SOC 2 certified, it effectively means that you've held the highest standard of data privacy and security regulations. So we said, okay, well, what does that entail? We looked into it, realized to get SOC 2 certified, it takes well over a year. In fact, sometimes like a year and a half. But we talked about it as a company, and we said, hey, listen, do we want to be on the leading edge of this capability? Do we want to be able to support courses like this massive resort? And the answer we came to was yes. And as we thought about our business, handling customer information, golfer information, we realized it was a good business decision as well to have the highest possible standard of security and care. So we went through the process. We said, let's do it. It's taken us well over a year and a half. We got our SOC 2 Type 1 certification, which means, hey, at this point in time, everything is compliant and everything looks good. And then to get SOC 2 Type 2, they audit you for 3 months and make sure that you continue to be in good standing, which we've also gone through successfully. So we finally, unless knock on wood, sleep well at night, knowing at least we have the best possible standards of data and information compliance. The other was on VPAT. We were working with a few properties in Colorado, and they said, are you guys VPAT compliant? VPAT is standards of audio, visual, effectively disability technology use. That means folks who have audio or visual or other disabilities can use your technology successfully.
Let me jump in here, because I think some people get confused. They think that VPAT is the original ADA and how we had a lot of ambulance chasing attorneys running around looking at golf course websites.
Yep.
It is not. It is another step in that evolution. And to that point, Colorado went live with this on July 1st of 2024.
Yep.
So if you're a golf course operator and you're watching this and you're thinking, oh, I've already dealt with that, this is new. Ohio just put it into effect. Now, I will say it tends to apply to municipal facilities. But in the case of Colorado, I think we actually found a sentence in one of the documents we looked at that called out municipal golf courses.
Right.
So we know it applies to golf courses. And so don't tune out if you think, oh, I dealt with this, the NGCOA covered all this off a few years ago, whatever. This is new. And I'm sure at the NGCOA conference in Orlando, I'm sure they talked about this. But if not, or if you weren't able to attend, we should put some attention on this. So go on, explain how you guys address the VPAT.
Yeah, it was robust. I think there's another vendor, I'll give a shout out to Gallus Golf. I think they also have a number of properties in Colorado, and you effectively have to make a decision. Are we going to rebuild our technology to be VPAT compliant in these states, or are we going to work with a partner like another software company to help get to VPAT compliance? So we opted to work with a partner to help get us to the point where Colorado municipal golf courses, of which we have dozens, could use our software, use our technology. And again, it was a business decision saying, hey, we want to work with Colorado and Ohio municipal courses. So if this is a requirement, we're going to do that. And again, this is some of the stuff that isn't always sexy and shiny and new, but it's the blocking and tackling that makes us a trusted partner for a lot of these municipal facilities.
That's right. This is the grind of running a complete company, right? That sometimes you've got to spend dollars and development hours on things that aren't going to generate revenue. It's hard to tell the board that as a direct result of doing this, we grew this revenue or whatever. Sometimes you got to play defense, right? Because you didn't want to be in a situation where you started getting termination letters from municipal golf facilities in Colorado. And so this is for these young tech entrepreneurs that tune in and watch this. These are the things that, to your point, Jake, they're not sexy, but they're necessary.
Yeah, it was a product decision, right? We could go build a new capability within our technology platform, and maybe it would make for better PR and better buzz if it was a new shiny gizmo or gadget that we had on top of our system. Or we can invest in VPAT and SOC 2, which honestly took over a year and hundreds, if not thousands of hours, but situate us to be able to scale and support those municipalities that we want to work with. So, I would say it was a feature, not a bug, to be able to build this in. And now we're positioned to be able to scale and continue to help course operators that are required to be VPAT compliant to buy software in Colorado or elsewhere.
That's good. Good on you. Let's go back to Eric Garber. if we can, because in your explanation of how he does cancellation policy, and if I can just throw a little plug out there, we're doing research right now. We're asking every golf course that we can get our hands on to complete a short survey about what their cancellation policy is and what their reservation policy is. What you're saying is that Eric has said, I don't like the idea of somebody having to put down a whole bunch of money when they make the reservation. But if they no-show, I need recourse to collect the money. Now, maybe you know or you don't know, the big pushback you get from a lot of operators on charging for a no-show is that they can't get support from Visa, MasterCard when it gets contested. Any thoughts on that? Are you hearing the same? I'd be interested to get your feedback on that.
I definitely am. I don't want to put words in Eric's mouth because I think you should ask him, and he's the operator here. I'm just a technology guy. But I think the way he situated it, it's a $0 deposit, and he uses technology like Noteefy and 4Up to make sure that golfer knows very clearly that if there's a no-show, they're going to get dinged. It's all over the website where the policy is crystal clear. I think that works. I haven't heard directly from Eric that they have issues with disputes, but I have heard that with many other operators. You could get a fee coming in and a fee paying going out. So that's one of the reasons as well with Noteefy Confirm, our automation product to verify the golfer is going to be there. We want to give that course operator an audit log. That's a key part of our product. So Mike experiences a no-show, you have a cancellation policy, you charge the customer. If MasterCard says, hey, Mike, what's the deal? They disputed it. You actually have an audit log saying, hey, we texted them 4 different times confirming they were going to be in attendance. Here's it. And they verified they were going to be there. And here's our cancellation policy. We believe that should arm operators with enough muscle to be able to defend the fact that a customer dispute, isn't correct in that case.
That's awesome. Can you explain what is the experience for this this Noteefy, if you will? What's the golfer experience?
Yeah, so I guess there's kind of 2 key capabilities. You've got the digital booking assistant. The golfer goes to the course website. They see our capability white labeled with the course's branding, and they can put in their preferences and get real-time text messages when inventory opens. There's a bunch of other bells and whistles under the hood. The confirm capability is pretty similar to like a doctor's office confirmation. So you'll get, and it's all configurable by an operator, but you, the golfer, will get a text, call it 72 hours before the tee time, saying, hey, Mike, you have a tee time on Saturday at 10 a.m., 1 to confirm, 2 to cancel, 3 to modify. Obviously, we move the numbers. Actually, it's like 159 so that there aren't any fat finger, mistakes. But ultimately, what we want to do is drive cancellations outside of the booking window of the cancellation window so that that operator has an opportunity to rebook it at rack rate. So our system integrates into the tee sheet, and the operator has a suite of configurable text they can send out about all the different messages, whether it's the confirm text, whether it's the reminder text, whether it's, the booking congratulations text. We are really text first because texts have a 98% open rate and a very high engagement. So for us, we believe arming operators with the technology, suggesting they implement a cancellation policy should hopefully put a dent in the 9 to 10% no-show rate operators experience today.
Okay, so that's an interesting data point. 9 to 10% no-show rate, and that includes short shows?
Correct.
Okay. So one question that brings up for me is the confirm capabilities in this, is that only specific to tee times that were booked as a result of the waitlist functionality, or like can confirm run if I call the golf course and make a tee time, confirm would still get applied to those tee times as well?
That's correct. We integrate into the tee sheet, whether the golfer has or hasn't used Noteefy, they're going to be put into the confirm flow.
Okay.
We do need their phone number, obviously. So we recommend the operator collects phone number at the time of booking. Obviously, that's great data for the course operator to have anyway. So It doesn't, the golfer does not have to have used Noteefy, the digital waitlist or booking assistant, to be into the confirm flow on the tee sheet.
All right, let me ask you a really technical workflow question here.
Let's hear it.
Let's say Sally uses Noteefy at XYZ golf course.
Mm-hmm.
Do you collect her mobile number in signing up to be notified if an opening happens?
Yes.
Okay. Then do you push that mobile number up into her golfer profile in, let's say, the 4UP tee sheet?
We provide that data right back to the operator to use however they see fit. So
okay.
Exactly. So we don't necessarily push it into their profile, but we do just hand it right back over to the operator.
And so then we can maybe run some kind of workflow from there, honestly.
That's exactly right.
To insert it. But really, the fact that you guys are on site, if you will, if you're a vendor for the golf course, we should probably see an increase in mobile phone number collection.
100%.
Okay. Have you done any data on that? Have you ever written a white paper on here's what happens to the mobile phone number field, once you bring Noteefy on board?
It's an interesting concept. One thing we did look at is how many of the contacts using Noteefy are net new contacts for that golf course. And we found over 30% of the golfer data that we're giving to the course is brand new.
Wow.
I had a marketing manager at a golf course say they would pay the software subscription just to keep getting 30% new emails.
Of course. Of course. So, it's funny you say that because we're just coming off the PGA show, and then I'm hopping on a plane after this is done to get down to the CMAA show.
Yep.
And of course, this is the time of year when we collect so many more contacts of people that work at these golf courses. And so really to hear you talk about a 30% growth of database size resonates with me as we're trying to serve all of our different technology customers on these golf course contacts. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that was pretty jaw-dropping. It wasn't only at one golf course either. This was across a multi-course portfolio of dozens of properties where this operator downloaded all the data that they had on one platform and then compared it to the Noteefy information and found thousands of new records that they could use for their marketing campaigns. So we were jaw dropped when we heard that.
Yeah, no, that's excellent. It'd be, for whatever it's worth, grow that piece of your marketing plan, right?
Yeah,
you're here to help grow golfer data collection.
No doubt.
That's really cool. What was the PGA show like for you? I'd be curious to know, what you thought of it.
Yeah.
I think you guys were probably there last year, but I'd be curious to get your feedback on the show.
It was, we call it our Super Bowl, right? It's the major of the golf business. I think they call it that for the right reason. It really is. It's always a spectacle. It always just gives you so much excitement about being in this industry. I always try and describe it to people. I'm like, 40, 50,000 people go into a conference room. It will take you 45 minutes to walk from one side to the other in a straight line. You see every gizmo and gadget you could ever imagine, whether it's Adidas, and Callaway launching their latest and greatest product, or if it's, some guy or gal who has a new swing aid, and everything in between.
Or you get to spend time with Derek Jeter, whatever might happen there.
It's like golf Disneyland, I call it. It is wild. And I think for us, it was really cool being there in 2024 and then again in 2025, because obviously we've grown both headcount and our partner count materially. So I think our booth was a little bigger. We had 12 folks with us there this year, and we had a lot of clients that we got to spend time with, a lot of new prospects we got to know. So I joke that I wish every day was the PGA show for the business, but at the same time, I think I'm a little still worn down from yapping for 5 days straight with the golf business conference before and then rolling into the PGA show.
I got a chance to swing by the T-Commerce booth. T-Commerce, that people get apparel like this through T-Commerce, but you go to the golf course website to get this apparel, and you don't really know that you're using T-Commerce. And as I was doing that, it reminded me of you guys. It's similar, right? You are an app that the golf course operator is using to enhance their business. But the consumer is really just thinks of it in terms of, like in this case, Windsor Park.
Yeah.
Right. Windsor Park is a course that I played at. It's in Jacksonville. And I like to get, apparel from places where I play. Maybe I don't think to get it while I'm there in the pro shop, or maybe they don't have the selection I'm looking for. But in the case of T-commerce, they provide this online store. And so it ends up being a cool experience for me. But Noteefy's similar, I think, in that sense, right? You're this bolt-on application. You're not a T-sheet.
Correct.
You're not a point of sale. You're a bolt-on application that enhances frankly, the golfer experience, but also is there to make the golf course operator more money.
That's absolutely right. We kind of, I would assume that the T-commerce guys also call themselves B2B2C, where our customer is the golf course, but our user is the golfer. So it's probably the same thing with T-commerce, where their customer is the course, but the user is Jake and Mike getting a new quarter zip, right?
That's right.
And I love what they do. We have a Noteefy T-commerce store that they generously stood up for us. And I think just about everyone in my friends and family list has been spammed with our online store to get a new Noteefy zip. And every now and then I'll see someone from the team do a big haul and do, I think, Christmas order to make sure that their family has a bunch of the bells and the Noteefy logo on there.
That's cool. Hey, listen, I know you're from California, and I know actually when we were covering the big kind of tea time, outrage that was going on in Los Angeles, you and your co-founder had experienced that as golfers.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about the fires, if you can. Help someone in Ohio, someone in New York, someone in Florida to understand exactly what you all have gone through in that greater LA area, because it is devastating, Jake. And I'd just be interested to get a firsthand, report, if you would.
Yeah, I'm a lifelong Angelino. I grew up here. I did a tour of duty on the East Coast. I went out to New York and Pennsylvania for a while, but I boomeranged back. So I live here actually in the canyon in the San Fernando Valley. And I've never, fires are a part of living out here in LA. We're used to it. The Santa Ana winds are these really hot winds that blow through, and dry vegetation. We were in a drought for a while, creates fires, but nothing like this ever. I mean, the structural damage is not something we were used to. There's always mountain fires and they get it contained and we move on with our lives. Even evacuations are very rare. But in the case of this fire, especially in the Palisades fire and the Altadena fire, we have, everybody I know has friends or family who have had their houses burned down. And it's almost hard to comprehend, the devastation that does to your family when you don't have somewhere to go home. And it kind of interesting, not to get all dramatic, is, it's the little things. Like, you can get a new TV, you can get a new couch, but we have a family friend who couldn't get his, the watch his dad gave him, and now it's gone, right? And, those little things, right, that are just, you'll never get back. I think on a personal level, so many people impacted. For the golf business, we have a client, Coursco, operates Altadena and Eaton Canyon. Altadena Golf Course had the pro shop burned down, most of their equipment destroyed. The course is going to be closed for a year plus. It's devastating. That's staff that now has to figure out what they're going to do. I'm sure, I know that Tom Bugby and Lee Finkel and Mike, over at Coursco are all over it. But ultimately, it's really tough for everybody who's impacted. Thank God we are okay. I'm home right now, but we saw the fire from our house and coming down the hill. And if the wind changed the wrong direction, we probably wouldn't be talking to you from this room. Yeah,
it's just terrible. Explain why Altadena, and maybe you don't know, but explain why Altadena would be closed for a year. Why can't they set up like a temporary trailer or something like that?
I'll be honest, I don't know. I don't want to speak for them in terms of the timeline. What I know is I saw pictures of the course and it was really beat up, right? So I don't know how long it will be down for. Hopefully I'm misspoken. It'll be up in 2-3 months, but based on the devastation, based on bureaucracy of what it takes to rebuild in California, I would be surprised if it was less than that.
Yeah.
I hope that I'm wrong, and I hope that it's going to be back and people are teeing it up in 3 months. But we haven't even been able to go. Most people whose homes were impacted haven't been able to go home yet. So, and that it's been a few weeks. So it's hard to think about, being able to rebuild the golf course over the homes, but I hope that I'm wrong.
How about the other golf courses? You've got that LA City contingent, you got the LA County group. Any information on other golf courses other than Altadena?
I mean, Riviera was set to host the Genesis Open on this weekend, I think, right? February 12th,
right.
16th.
That's right. Well, no, in 2 weeks. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. 2 weeks. So it's set to host the Genesis. Believe it or not, the course, as far as I understand, is not damaged, whereas most of the residential area is gone.
Yeah. They just don't have the infrastructure, I think, to put the tournament on.
Exactly.
Right.
I think they have bigger problems in Palisades other than hosting the golf tournament. But as far as I know, there were no other courses damaged materially. I mean, maybe Eaton Canyon had some light damage. Altadena was really impacted. So, I recommend reaching out to Tom Bugby. He's been all over it. He's the COO of Coursco, and he's been on a lot of local news talking about what they're doing to take care of their employees, obviously in this challenging time.
Yeah, it's just terrible. You mentioned that you were in New York for a stint.
Yeah.
I don't know if a lot of people know about your background. You did not grow up, so to speak, in golf. You certainly are an athlete, and I think you wrestled, maybe played baseball. But who is Jake Gordon? Where were you working? How did you decide to found a company? Give us some background on what set you up to do this.
Yeah, who is Jake Gordon? I guess it depends who's asking, but at the end of the day, in the context of Noteefy, I've been obsessed with startups and new technology for as long as I can remember, but at least the last 15 years. I was in college and there was a startup pitch competition, and I saw a flyer that said that the best startup pitch can win 10 grand. And I think I ripped that off the wall. I brought it to my friend. I said, hey, we should come up with something and do this thing because this seems awesome. I love Shark Tank. And that kind of took me down this path of falling in love with identifying a problem, building something. For me, it was software. And I'm not a coder, but I kind of fell in love with the concept of having a software-enabled solution that could solve a problem. So ironically, in college, it's kind of cringy to think about, but it was a peer-to-peer dress rental service, like Airbnb for dresses on campus.
And those exist today, so that wasn't too far off.
It was a little early in my time. It was early 2010s. It was like sharing economy was the thing. So, what's mine is yours for a fee is kind of like the business model. And, we pitched this concept of, a peer-to-peer dress rental service and for college campuses, and won the competition. We hacked together an MVP. We took it to a couple different campuses. We got some GMV, which is gross merchandise value, meaning like how much volume was done on the platform in the thousands. And it was just like magic to see an idea come to life. And for me, that started a 10 or 15-year journey of trying a bunch of different parts of the ecosystem. So I went out to Tel Aviv, Israel. I worked for a big growth venture capital fund that was managing billions of dollars and investing in late stage companies. I then worked for a big consulting firm called Accenture. We had a ventures arm. We had invested in something like 70 different startups. And my job was to help those startups go to market and scale.
So not so much find the startup, but once they got under the umbrella of Accenture, correct, get in there and help optimize it.
Yeah, that was my job. So my job was to help them grow and scale as part of our value add. We had a team that was writing checks, and then they'd bring them over and we would help them go to market and scale by brokering Fortune 500 deals.
And how long, Jake, did you live in Tel Aviv?
I was there for 5 months.
Okay. So not multiple years. I mean, the minute you said Tel Aviv, I thought to myself, does Noteefy get to England? Does Noteefy get to France? I mean, give me your thoughts on that.
Well, we're in 5 countries right now.
So obviously Canada and the United States.
We're in Canada, New Zealand, we're in the Dominican Republic, and we are in another one of the Caribbean countries.
Got it.
We have distribution, not a major footprint, but in Canada, I think 30 to 50 courses, maybe 50 plus. So, and New Zealand has a great footprint. Believe it or not, in Israel, there's one golf course, the Caesarea Golf Club, and it is an awesome track. You know,
yeah.
Scratch Golf did a feature on it. It's a really cool course. So I think global could definitely be an option. You know, if they have supply and demand issues, I think we can help.
And so how long at Accenture, and what are there any, you know, notable companies that you helped with that we would recognize today?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I was there for, you know, just over 5 years, which isn't that long, but it was long enough that I got to work with a lot of great clients. It's a little bit, you know, you don't usually talk about your projects as much, but this is public information. One of my big first clients was the Hershey Company. And we were doing a big technology transformation project. That was an awesome experience. I got to work with CVS Health a lot and big investment banks. I had dozens of Fortune 500 customers.
So as a golf guy, I immediately have to ask, so is Hershey a customer of Noteefy?
They are not yet, which is on our list.
That's one of your white whales for 2025.
On our list. Nothing more than to get out to Harrisburg and drive to Hershey and knock on a door and maybe pick up some chocolate while I'm there.
Yeah. I've been to a few owners conferences there and enjoyed cutting it up with all the different people that were there.
Yeah, it's amazing over there. I mean, I guess I'll just wrap. Long story short is, you know, I built this muscle around working with startups and helping them go to market at scale. And I just, as you alluded to, as a wrestler, I like being on the mat. I like being in the arena, and being on the side was really, you know, educational, but I love the feeling of going for it and having your destiny be 100% in your control effectively. So when I met Dathan, who's my partner in crime, the brains behind the operation, you know, he's a builder and I'm kind of a go-to-market guy. So there was a good division of labor and we had a great chemistry and working together, and he built our product, you know, the initial version. I helped get it to market at 1 course, then 3, then 10, and now we have a robust team.
You know, you mentioned go-to-market. We could do a whole podcast episode, honest to goodness, on go-to-market, because there's a lot of tech founders, CEOs, et cetera. There's a gap there, is a nice way to say it. How did you get your go-to-market chops? Like, who did you learn from? Was it just from testing? Or do you think back to a couple of individuals that you feel like really helped shape your go-to-market strategy? And listen, maybe we should just explain what go-to-market is too, before you maybe tell us how you learned about it so much.
Sure. I mean, very simply put, you have a product, you got to get customers. How are you going to get customers? That's your go-to-market strategy.
And don't you think go-to-market is often just as important as what the problem is that you're solving? Like, you might solve a problem, but if you can't figure out how to get it out there and to get people to consume it, you don't have a company, really.
That's right. I mean, at the end of the day, software is commoditized, especially in an era of AI. You could go onto ChatGPT right now and you could build a piece of software that's usable. The question is, can you get distribution? Distribution is how you get your product out into the world. I'm a big believer that distribution is just as important as your product, because if you could have a Ferrari, if no one knows how to drive or use it, or it's parked in a garage, you know, it's not adding a lot of value. So, you know, for me, I'm borderline obsessed with it. I love the science of go-to-market. I love all of the different channels of how you get your product out there into the world. You know, it starts with doing blocking and tackling, like picking up the phone and calling a golf course and convincing an operator to give you a shot. And then you compound that into one other operator in the area. And then maybe you can get a multi-course operator. And then maybe you can get another multi-course operator. So you just create what's called a flywheel. But ultimately, go-to-market is useless if you don't have a good product.
Agreed. I do agree with that. Yes.
You know, you can have the world's best go-to-market strategy, and distribution. But if you don't have a good product, you're going to have a leaky bucket. People are going to churn off it and not say good things about you. So
agreed. Who's your go-to-market mentor?
You know, when I was at Accenture, I had a mentor of mine. There was two. One led our ventures arm, and I'll give her a shout, Amanda McBride. She's a mentor of mine, a friend of mine, and she is a whiz on all things startup go-to-market. She taught me everything I need to know, or everything I learned about how to bring software to market, specifically in the startup world. Then I had another mentor of mine, Eric Polofsky. He was a big deal guy. And he was someone who just knew the art of $1 million deal, $10 million deal. I saw him do $100 million deals, and what it takes to be a tenacious person to structure something that big and complex. And had the pleasure of working for him, both of them, for several years, and just tried to be a sponge. And they gave me a lot of responsibility. And now they're my first call if I have a question about anything.
Nice. I did think we can get into it another time. You know, part of go-to-market is also about, do I go freemium and then I, graduate people? Like, there's a lot of strategy around. I'm actually still waiting for a T-sheet company to figure out how to sell in terms of credits.
Sure.
You know, hey, you can buy 100 credits a month as my low tier, and that means after 100 tea times you've booked, you're either going to have to go back to the phone or something, and help operators test technology without making a big commitment. Again, we haven't seen anybody do it, but we can talk about that another time.
Yeah.
To wrap things up, I know next week you're going to actually sit with some different people and try to expand more on this no-show issue. Just tell us about that. I think it's called Golf's $1 billion problem, but talk about that, and then we'll say our goodbyes and we'll let you get back to work.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I got to give a shout out to Ross Liggett, founder of Metolius. He has 500 plus customers he works with as a data warehouse, business intelligence platform. And he's got 10 million rounds of data from 2024. And we had an operator kind of give us like I'm not going to say a lead, but say, hey, take a look at this no-show problem and see how widespread it is. We looked at their portfolio. It was a serious problem in the teens of no-show rates. And then we said, all right, well, let's see how bad this is across the industry. We looked at his 10 million rounds and blended the no-show rate was 9%, weather agnostic, which 9% applied onto the 300 million rounds that are public a year, $50 green fee, add in the ancillary spend. It is north of $1 billion in revenue that gets lost from the industry. On top of that, when we look at the problem, we think that there's something that you can do about it. So we're going to also be talking about both policies and technologies of what operators can do to help. So tune in next week, I think February 13th. And again, no one wants to sit through a product show and tell, but I want to bring in Eric, bring in Scott Wellman, bring in David.
Scott Wellman, for people, super smart at Landscapes Unlimited or Landscapes Management Company.
Exactly.
So for Scott to be on there with Ross, and I know both those guys, and yourself, really good. But go on. Who else will be on with you?
Brought David Lorenz, the Chief Research Officer of the NGF. He's going to be talking about the market and the problem that you just outlined. Ross is going to be talking about no-shows, what's preventable, what's not. Scott is going to be talking about how he views technology and automation from a MCO point of view. And Eric's going to be talking about policy. And we're also going to be doing.
No, that's great. I just would say this. Even though Scott will come at it from an MCO perspective, it's good for individual operators. I mean, Scott's going to talk in terms of, but if you're running this golf course, because at the end of the day, Landscapes is running these individual golf courses, right? And so if you are an individual operator, I think to have the opportunity to hear from Scott is valuable. So I think that's great.
He's an amazing mind in the industry. Fortunate to call him a customer and a friend. And I learn from him every time I chat with him. So hopefully you get a lot of diverse points of view. And, I'll try my best not to bore you to tears on it and make it worth every single golf operator's time.
Well, that's good. We'll put a link, if it's okay with you, we'll put a link to that in the show notes as well. And so hopefully people will come and listen to you guys.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Well, listen, I appreciate the time. I know you're feeling a little under the weather, so it was very nice of you to make the time. I got to go hop on a plane so I can get down to Tampa. But I wish you all the success in the world. Reach out if you ever need anything. I think it'll be great if, as an industry, we can solve some of these reservation issues, and like you said, kind of help plug up that leak in the revenue bucket. That would be a big win for everybody.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me, Mike. Appreciate everything you do to kind of put the word out there about technology. I think you're solving a great problem for folks like myself and operators looking to figure out what's legit and what's vaporware and everything in between.
Okay, well, have a great day. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Mike.
All right, bye.